Getting ready for your California driver's test? Well, let's turn that study session into a quick and effective quiz. This is your 12-question challenge to see if you're really ready to ace that exam.
So you think you've got what it takes to pass? Let's find out right now. We've got 12 questions for you, pulling from the kind of material you're definitely going to see on the real test. Ready? Let's get started.
All right, first up, Section 1, Foundational Rules. We're starting with the basics here, the absolute must-knows for anyone driving in California.
Okay, first question. It's illegal for a person 21 or older to drive with a blood alcohol concentration, that's BAC, that is, what percent or more? The correct answer is 0.08%. In California, that is the hard legal limit for drivers 21 and over. If you're at or above this number, you are looking at a DUI. The takeaway here couldn't be simpler, just don't drink and drive.
Question number 2 for you. You have to notify the DMV within 5 days if you do what? And the answer is if you sell or transfer your vehicle. Now, why the tight deadline? Well, think about it. Notifying the DMV quickly protects you from being held responsible for stuff like parking tickets or, worse, accidents involving the car after you've sold it. It's a super simple step that can save you a huge headache.
Let's look at question 7. Smoking inside a vehicle when a person younger than 18 is present is... The answer couldn't be more direct. It's illegal at all times. This law is all about protecting minors from the health risks of secondhand smoke, and there are absolutely no exceptions.
And question 8, when is it legal to use a cell phone without a hands-free device while driving? Think carefully. There is only one situation, when making a call for emergency assistance. That is the single critical exception. For anything else, you must be hands-free to prevent dangerous and potentially fatal distractions.
Okay, that brings us to our second section, navigating the road. Now we're going to get into how you handle your car in traffic, deal with specific situations, and read all the signs.
Let's move on. Question 3. Picture this. You're at an uncontrolled T intersection. One car is on the main through road, and another is on the road that ends. Who has the right-of-way? The rule is pretty clear. The vehicle on the through road always has the right-of-way. Just like you see here, if your road is the one that's ending, you have to yield to all the traffic on that main continuous road before you can go.
All right, on to question 4. You pull up to an intersection and the traffic light is completely out, not working at all. What should you do? You must come to a complete stop and then proceed only when it's safe. You basically treat the broken signal just like a four-way stop. Stop, look, yield the right-of-way, and go only when the coast is clear.
Here's question 6. You've got a green light, but look ahead. Traffic is totally backed up, blocking the intersection. What's the move? The rule here is super important. Stay out of the intersection until traffic clears. You might have heard this called blocking the box. It's illegal, and it causes massive gridlock, so just be patient and wait behind the line.
Question 11 for you. When you're getting ready to make a turn, you should signal during the last how many feet before you turn. The magic number you're looking for is 100 feet. To give you a sense of that distance, it's about half a city block. Signaling that early gives drivers behind you plenty of time to see what you're planning to do and react safely.
And here we are, our final question, number 12. You can legally pass another vehicle on the right on a two-way road only if what? The rule is the vehicle ahead is turning left and there is a clear, paved lane for you to use. It's a very specific exception and doesn't happen often, so it's really important to know exactly when it's allowed.
All right, let's head into our final section, reading the road. This is where we'll cover some crucial rules about maneuvers and, just sharing the road safely with everybody else out there.
Question 5. You see this sign, the red and white triangle. What exactly does it mean? That is a yield sign. It means you have to give the right-of-way to other traffic. So you need to slow down and be ready to stop if you have to before you merge or enter the intersection.
Question 9. Which statement is true when you're comparing motorcyclists and motorists? The key thing to remember is this. Motorcyclists have the same rights and responsibilities as other motorists. They are entitled to a full lane, and it's on every single driver to be aware of them and to share the road safely.
Next up, question 10. And this one is a big one for safety. You should stop before crossing railroad tracks when? The answer is a critical safety rule. Anytime a train may be approaching, whether or not you can see it. If you see flashing lights, a lowered gate, or you hear that horn, you stop. A train can't stop quickly, so your safety is entirely in your hands.
And that is all 12. So, how did you do?
Hey, regardless of your score, let's take a second to look at the key principles that tie all of these rules together.
Look, whether you aced it or you learned a few new things, it's all good. Because all these rules, they really just boil down to a few core ideas. Ultimately, it's this: yield to prevent collisions, always signal what you're about to do, maintain constant awareness of what's around you, and always prioritize safety over speed. If you can master these, you're well on your way to being a great driver.
So, feeling a little more confident? Ready for the road ahead? For the complete California Driver's Handbook and even more practice tests, your best resource is the official DMV website at dmv.ca.gov.
Let's do this.
Okay, first things first. We're going to start with the absolute basics. Controlling your car and just knowing where you're supposed to be on the road. These are the fundamentals, the real building blocks of driving safely. So here's question number 1.
Simple one to start. Think about those tight alleyways. What's the speed limit? The answer is 15 miles per hour. And there's a really good reason for that specific slow speed. Alleys are just so unpredictable, right? You've got terrible visibility, people can pop out, cars can back out with no warning. So that 15 mile per hour limit, it's not just some random number. It's designed to give you that tiny bit of extra reaction time you need to avoid a serious accident.
Okay, this one's a classic. I want you to picture this in your head. You're on a multi-lane, one-way street, and you need to turn left onto another one-way street. Where do you need to be to start that turn?
You got it? The answer is the lane closest to the left curb. It all comes down to one word: predictability. When you're in that far left lane, every other driver on the road knows exactly what you're planning to do. It lets you make a clean, tight turn without cutting anyone off or drifting. It's just the safest, most logical way to do it.
All right, next up. This is all about your on-the-fly judgment. Doesn't matter if you're stuck on the 405 or just driving downtown. When you go to change lanes or merge, how much of a gap do you actually need? The answer is a 4-second gap. And here's the cool thing about this rule. It's about time, not distance. See, if you count it out, 1 1,000, 2 1,000, that buffer you're creating automatically gets bigger the faster you're going. So even in fast traffic, you still have that 4-second window to get over without making the person behind you slam on their brakes. You're doing great. So we've talked about where to put your car. Now let's switch gears and talk about how the road communicates with you. This next section is all about reading the signs, the signals, the lines on the pavement. Basically, the visual language that tells you what to do.
Okay, you've definitely seen these on the freeway. Those really thick, broken white lines on the side of your lane. What do those mean? What are they trying to signal to you?
The answer? That lane is about to end. Think of those thick lines as a heads up, a visual warning that says, hey, this lane isn't going to be here for much longer. It might be an exit-only lane, or it's about to merge. Basically, it's the road's way of telling you to start looking for a safe spot to move over.
All right, next question is about a sign that is absolutely critical for your safety. You see this one, you need to know exactly what to do. What does it mean?
When you see that sign, your immediate response should be to look, listen, and get ready to stop if you have to. It means a railroad crossing is coming up. This is your cue to maybe turn the music down a bit, look both ways down the tracks, and just be totally prepared for a train. Your full attention here is absolutely non-negotiable. This might sound like a simple question, but there's more than one right answer. There are a few different traffic signals that all mean the exact same thing. You must stop. Can you name all of them? You have to stop for a solid red light, of course, also a flashing red light, and here's the one that trips people up, a blacked out signal. The first two are pretty obvious, but if a traffic light is completely dead, no lights on at all, you have to treat that entire intersection like a four-way stop. Come to a complete stop and then take your turn. Super important to remember. Okay, you're crushing this. Let's move on to the messy stuff, the unexpected. Because let's be real, driving isn't always about perfect conditions. It's about knowing how to react when things go wrong. So imagine this. It's one of those rare rainy days in California, and you see a massive, deep puddle up ahead covering your whole lane. What's the right move here?
The smartest thing to do is to avoid it, if you can do it safely. I mean, driving through a giant puddle might seem fun, but it's a huge gamble. For one, you could hydroplane. That's where your tires lose contact with the road and just float on the water. You have zero control. And two, you can get your brakes soaking wet, which means they might not work when you need them right after. So if you can't get around it, you have to slow way, way down before you go through it.
Okay, this next hazard isn't on the road, it's in your medicine cabinet. What's a really common side effect of most cold medications that can seriously affect your driving?
The big one is drowsiness. They can make you really sleepy. And this is such a good example of how impaired driving isn't just about drinking. Being drowsy from medication can mess with your reaction time just as badly. It's why you've got to read that warning label before you even think about driving.
All right, let's talk about what happens after an accident. In California, if the property damage is over a certain amount, you're legally required to report it to the DMV. Do you know what that dollar amount is? That number is $1,000. So if there's more than $1,000 in damage to anyone's car or property, or if anyone gets hurt at all, even a tiny bit, you have to file what's called an SR1 report with the DMV, and you've only got 10 days to do it.
We are in the home stretch now. This last section is all about sharing the road. How do we safely coexist with everyone else out there, from massive trucks to people just trying to cross the street?
So let's talk about something big, literally. Large trucks. There's a very common mistake our brains make when we're driving near them. Do you know what it is? It's that they often look like they're moving slower than they actually are. It's a total optical illusion. Because they're so huge, our brains just can't judge their speed correctly. The takeaway here is crucial. Never ever cut in front of a truck thinking you have tons of time. You almost certainly have less time than you think. Okay, you see this classic yellow sign coming up. What should your immediate reaction be as a driver? What are you supposed to do? The right answer is to immediately become more alert and get ready to stop. That sign is not just a suggestion, it's a serious warning. It means you're in an area where people are likely to be crossing the street, so your foot should be ready over the brake pedal, your eyes should be scanning the sidewalks, you need to be ready for anything. That's what the sign is for. Okay, this next one is a very specific situation, but knowing the right answer really shows you understand what it means to share the road safely. So, what do you do? The correct and most helpful thing to do is to pull up to the crosswalk so the person can hear your engine. See, they rely on sound to know what's happening. Hearing your engine lets them know a car's there and, more importantly, that it is stopped for them. If you stop way back, or worse, if you honk, it can be really confusing. You're just trying to give them a clear, simple audio cue that it's safe.
All right, final question, and this one is so important for keeping our passengers safe. What is the absolute, unbreakable rule for infants riding in cars that have front airbags?
The answer could not be more clear. They must not ride in the front seat, period. An airbag explodes out with so much force, and for a baby in a rear-facing car seat, that impact can be deadly. The back seat is always the safest spot for little kids.
And that is the end of the gauntlet. So, how'd you do? Look, these aren't just random trivia questions, right? Every single one of them is about a real situation you could face on the road, where knowing the answer could make all the difference. So I'll leave you with this question. What's the one thing you learned today that you're going to consciously think about the next time you get behind the wheel? Drive safe, everyone.
Hey everyone, so whether you've been on the road for years or you're just getting started, how well do you actually know the rules of the road here in California? Well, we're going to find out right now with a quick pop quiz with questions pulled right from the official driver's handbook.
So, what do you think? Could you pass the test if you had to take it today? Let's not waste any time. Buckle up and let's get started.
All right, first up is round 1, vehicle prep and personal safety. You know, all the super important stuff you got to do before you even put the car in drive. Let's see how you do. Okay, question 1. When should you adjust your mirrors? The correct answer is before you start driving. And why is that? Well, it's pretty simple. Trying to fix your mirrors while you're moving is a huge distraction. You want to get them set just right before you pull out, so your eyes stay where they belong, on the road. Next question. This one's a biggie. Failure to wear a safety belt in a moving vehicle will result in what? The answer, a traffic ticket. Look, in California, this is totally non-negotiable for you and for every single one of your passengers. It's not just a good idea, it's the law. That little click saves you a fine, and way more importantly, it could save your life.
All right, here's one for the modern age. It is illegal to wear a headset that covers... what? The answer is both ears. This is all about being aware of what's happening around you. You've got to be able to hear sirens, car horns, all those important sounds. If you block out both ears, you're driving in your own little bubble, and that is super dangerous.
Last question for this round. What do you have to do with cargo that's extending more than 4 feet from your rear bumper? The answer is, it absolutely must be marked with a red flag or lights. I mean, think about it. You got to make sure the driver behind you sees just how far your stuff is sticking out. So during the day, that means a red or orange flag. And at night, you need to use lights. It's a really simple way to prevent a nasty accident.
So, how did you do in round 1? Hopefully you're feeling good. Let's keep the momentum going. Round 2 is all about maneuvers and road rules. This is where we get into the real nitty-gritty of driving. First up for this round, your wheels should be pointed straight ahead unless you are, what? The right answer is parked on a hill or a sloping driveway. This is just a little bit of physics that can make a huge difference. If you turn your wheels toward the curb when you're facing downhill, or away from the curb when you're facing uphill, you're making sure that if your brakes were to fail, the curb will stop your car from rolling out into traffic. Smart, right? Okay, next question. When you're driving in fog, snow, or rain, you should use your what? The correct answer is your low beam headlights. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wouldn't high beams be better? But actually, no. They make things worse. The bright light from high beams reflects off all the moisture in the air and creates this massive glare, which makes it even harder to see. This one is so important for safety. To be absolutely sure a lane is clear before you change lanes, you should do what? The answer is glance over your shoulder into the lane you want to enter. Your mirrors are great, but they don't show you everything. They have blind spots. That quick, physical head turn is literally the only way to be 100% sure there isn't a car or a motorcycle hiding where you can't see it. All right, next up, you see that center lane, the one with both broken and solid yellow lines? What is that for? The answer is for turning left only. This lane has a very specific job. You can get in it to get ready for your left turn, but you can't use it to pass other cars, and you definitely can't just drive in it. Okay, here we go. It's time for our final round, special zones and encounters. These are those situations on the road where the rules are extra important. Let's finish this thing strong. First question of the final round. The speed limit for a school zone when children are present is... The answer is a firm 25 miles per hour. And this isn't a suggestion. When you see kids out or those yellow lights are flashing, the speed limit is 25, period. And right on the heels of that one, instructions from school crossing guards must be obeyed when? The answer is simple, at all times. Their directions are the law. They overrule traffic lights, stop signs, everything. If a crossing guard tells you to stop, you stop even if you have a green light. Okay, this is a scenario that can really make people panic. An emergency vehicle, lights, and siren going is coming up behind you and you're already in an intersection. What's the right move? The correct answer is continue through the intersection, then pull to the right and stop. The absolute worst thing you can do is slam on the brakes in the intersection because you'll just block everybody. Clear it first, then get out of the way. And our final question, evading law enforcement by fleeing the scene can result in what? The answer is really serious. Jail in the county jail for not more than 1 year. Fleeing from law enforcement is a misdemeanor, and it turns what might be a simple traffic stop into something that can get you jail time and a criminal record. And that's a wrap on our pop quiz. So tell me, how did you score? Even if you got 1 or 2 wrong, hey, that's okay. The most important thing is that knowing these rules makes the roads safer for all of us. And if you want to become a true expert, you can always check out the full California Driver's Handbook online. Thanks so much for playing along, and please drive safely out there. Yep, because what we've done is boil down that entire super dense handbook into just the key facts you absolutely need to know. Stick with me, and by the end of this, you're going to feel so much more confident and totally ready to get that pass. Okay, Section 1, Decoding the Road. Let's start with the basics, right? Think of all those lines and lights as a language. They're talking to you constantly. And trust me, the DMV wants to make sure you're fluent. This is probably one of the most basic things, but so important. So you see a broken yellow line on your side of the road, that's your green light to pass, as long as it's clear, of course. But a solid yellow line, no way. That's a command, do not pass. And if you see 2 solid yellow lines, think of it like a concrete wall. You just don't cross it. All right, what about white lines? These are for traffic moving in the same direction. You see broken white lines? Cool, you can change lanes. A single solid white line, that's the road telling you, hey, maybe don't change lanes right here. It's a strong suggestion, but double solid white lines, just like the yellow ones, that's a hard no. It's a barrier, stay in your lane. Okay, I can almost guarantee you're going to get a question about this. It seems simple, but they'll test you. The order is always, from top to bottom, red, yellow, green. We all know red means stop. Yellow means heads up, it's about to be red, so slow down. And green means go. But here's the catch they look for. Only when it's safe. Don't forget that part. Now, let's talk about the green arrow. The keyword here, the one you need to remember, is protected.
A green arrow is special. It doesn't just mean you can go, it means you have the right of way. All the oncoming traffic, they've got a red light. It's your turn, and it's protected. Super important distinction. All right, Section 2, Mastering Driving Maneuvers. So, we've got the roads language down. Now let's get into the actual moves. This part is packed with those specific numbers and rules you've got to lock into your brain. And here's a classic example. The DMV loves asking about specific distances. So let's say you're about to make a turn. How much warning do you have to give everyone else? How far ahead do you need to flip that signal on? And the magic number is 100 feet. That's the one. You have to signal for at least 100 feet before you turn. Burn that number into your memory. 100 feet. Okay, this next one isn't just a test question, it's a huge safety tip. When you're sitting in an intersection, waiting to make a left turn, where are your wheels pointed? The answer is straight ahead, always. Why? Think about it. If someone smacks into you from behind, you'll get pushed straight, not directly into oncoming traffic. It's a simple habit that could literally save your life. U-turns. Yeah, these can be a little confusing, so let's clear it up. When is it actually legal? Well, you can make one across a double yellow line, believe it or not, if it's safe. In a residential zone, you need a good 200 feet of visibility in both directions. At a green light, you're good to go. Unless, of course, there's a big old no U-turn sign staring you in the face. Parking on a hill. This is the question that gets everybody, but I've got a super simple trick for you. Just remember this little phrase, up, and away. When you're parked uphill with a curb, you turn your wheels away from the curb. So for downhill, it's just the opposite. You turn them into the curb. And what if there's no curb at all? Easy. No matter which way you're facing, just turn the wheels toward the side of the road. Okay, next up, Section 3, Sharing the Space Safely. You know, driving isn't a solo mission, right? It's more like a giant, chaotic team sport. So this is all about the rules for playing nice with others. Pedestrians, emergency vehicles, you name it. Listen up, because this is a big one. It is an absolute, non-negotiable rule of the road. Pedestrians always have the right of way. I don't care if they're in a crosswalk, jaywalking, or doing cartwheels across the street. The law says the responsibility is on you, the driver, to yield. This will be on the test, and it's a huge deal for safety. Let's talk about California's move-over law. This law is all about protecting the people who work on our roadsides. We're talking police, fire truck drivers, and tow truck drivers. If you see one of their vehicles stopped on the shoulder with lights flashing, you have a job to do. Your first move is to change lanes. Move over to the left if it's safe. But if you can't, you have to slow way down and pass with caution. Okay, here's a scenario they love to throw at you on the test. Picture this. A school bus, its red lights are flashing, the little stop sign is out. You have to stop no matter what. Right? Well, actually, not always. And here is the exception you need to know. You do not have to stop if you're on the other side of a divided highway. You know, one with a physical barrier or a median in the middle. Or if it's a highway with 2 or more lanes of traffic going in your direction. But just about every other time you see those flashing red lights, yeah, you stop. Period. And finally, our last section, navigating tricky situations. Because, let's face it, things don't always go smoothly. The DMV wants you to know you're prepared for the weird stuff, like a traffic stop or a minor collision. Okay, nobody wants to get pulled over, but knowing what to do is super important for keeping everyone safe. The moment you see those lights, first thing is, signal to the right to show you see them. Pull over to the right shoulder and come to a complete stop. Then I'd suggest turning off the car and just place both your hands on the steering wheel so they're in plain sight. Then just wait for the officer's instructions. The test is definitely going to ask about DUI consequences, and they are no joke. We're talking massive fines, being forced to attend DUI school, and losing your license, and that can be just for the first time. The message is crystal clear. Driving under the influence has huge, life-altering consequences. Just don't do it. So what happens if you get into a small fender bender? Assuming, and this is key, that nobody is hurt, your number one job is to make sure it doesn't cause another worse accident. So if you can, the first thing you should do is move your cars out of the flow of traffic and onto the shoulder. Okay, get your flashcards out. Here's one more of those specific numbers you just have to memorize. At what's called a blind railroad crossing, basically one where you can't see very far down the tracks, the speed limit drops way down to just 15 miles per hour. It's that slow for a reason. It gives you enough time to see a train and stop before it's too late. And there you have it. That's the core stuff, the essentials you need to walk into that DMV, feel confident, and get it done. But remember that this test, it's really just the beginning. The real test starts every time you get behind the wheel. The goal isn't just to pass a test, it's to be a safe, smart driver for the rest of your life. So good luck, and please drive safe out there. Let's get started. First things first, we've got to learn to speak the language of the road. All those painted lines and colored curbs, they aren't just decorations. They are strict rules that tell you exactly where you can go and, more importantly, where you can't. Getting this down is really the first big step to being a safe and confident driver. So let's start with the absolute basics. Yellow lines versus white lines. It's so simple once you get it. Yellow lines are there to separate traffic that's moving in opposite directions. Just think yellow, two-way street. On the other hand, white lines separate traffic that's all going in the same direction. Think white, one-way flow. If you can remember that, you've already got a huge piece of the puzzle solved. Okay, so building on that, when you see double solid yellow lines, I want you to just picture a wall. A solid wall. You cannot cross it, period. And the DMV handbook is super specific about this. If you see two sets of these lines, and they're spaced 2 feet apart or more, that's legally considered a barrier. You absolutely cannot drive on it or over it for any reason. And here we have another set of road rules that are practically guaranteed to be on your test. Curb colors. Honestly, knowing these will not only help you pass, but it'll save you from a ton of parking tickets in the real world. So let's break down what each color actually means. Let's run through these real quick. Red is the easiest one. Red means stop. No parking, no stopping, not even for a second. It's usually for emergency vehicles. White is for really quick stops, like dropping off a passenger or mailing a letter. Yellow is for loading and unloading passengers or stuff, but just be aware there's usually a time limit and you often have to stay with your vehicle if it's not a commercial truck. All right, so now that we've got the static rules of the road down, let's talk about the more dynamic part. The actual dance of interacting safely with all the other cars out there. This is a huge, huge safety point, and the DMV really wants you to understand this. When you're driving anywhere near a big rig or a large bus, you have to remember that they can't see nearly as much as you can from your car. In fact, these blind spots have a name. They're called no zones, and for a very good reason. If you're driving in a truck's no zone, which is on both sides, directly behind it, and right in front of it, the driver literally cannot see you. To them, you vanished. So the big takeaway here is don't hang out in those spots. Pass them quickly or stay far enough behind. Okay, here's a classic situation you'll definitely see on the test. You're on the on-ramp, you see traffic flying by on the freeway. What do you do? Do you hit the brakes? Do you floor it? What's the right move? The answer is all about making your entry as smooth and safe as possible. You have to use that on-ramp to get your speed up to match the flow of traffic you're trying to join. Merging when you're going way too slow is actually super dangerous because it forces everyone behind you to slam on their brakes. All right, let's dig into some of those special situations. These are the kinds of things that might not happen on your daily drive, but when they do, you need to know exactly what the rule is. And you can bet the DMV loves to ask about these. Now, this one catches so many people off guard, especially here in California, where we can go for months without any rain. You might think the roads are most dangerous during a heavy downpour, but nope, it's right when that first rain starts to fall. And here's why that is. Over all those dry weeks and months, oil and dust and all sorts of grime build up on the road. When the first rain hits, it lifts all that junk to the surface and creates this thin, incredibly slippery layer. It's like driving on ice. So when those first drops start to fall, you need to slow way down. This one is all about responsibility and, well, the law. If you accidentally hit a parked car and you can't find the owner, you can't just drive away. You are legally required to do 2 things. First, leave a note with your name and contact info, and second, you have to report it to the police or CHP. Anything less is considered a hit and run. Okay, let's talk about parking. It's a fundamental skill, but the test has some very, very specific rules you've got to have memorized. We're talking everything from how close to the curb you need to be to exactly how to handle parking on a steep hill. Let's start with just a number, 18 inches. Go ahead and burn that number into your brain right now. What do you think it's for? That's it. It's the magic number for parallel parking. Your wheels have to be within 18 inches of the curb. If you're any farther out than that, your car is sticking out into traffic. And that's a major hazard for other drivers. Now, for what might be the trickiest parking scenario of all, hills. But the logic is all about gravity. You just have to ask yourself, if my brakes fail, which way do I want my car to roll? You always want it to roll safely into the curb or off the road, not into traffic. So, remember, facing downhill, turn your wheels into the curb. Facing uphill with a curb, turn them away from the curb. And if there's no curb at all, no matter which way you're facing, always turn your wheels toward the shoulder or the side of the road.
Okay, you're ready for a lightning round? The DMV test is full of specific numbers you just have to know. So let's do a quick fire round to lock a few of the most important ones into your brain. Let's go. First number up, 25. What does 25 miles per hour mean to you?
That's right. It's the speed limit in any residential area or school zone, unless you see a sign that tells you something different. It's all about keeping people and kids safe. Next number, or numbers. How far ahead should you be looking when you drive? The answer is 10 to 15 seconds down the road. Why so far? Because that gives you enough time to see a potential hazard, think about it calmly, and react smoothly, instead of having to make a dangerous last-second move.
And let's end on this. This quote from the Handbook pretty much sums everything up. Passing this test isn't just about memorizing some random rules. It's about understanding that driving is a huge privilege, and with it comes the massive responsibility of keeping yourself and everyone else on the road safe. Study these key points, drive safe, and you are going to do great. Good luck on your test.
You know, passing your driver's test, that's just step one. Really mastering the road, that's a whole different ballgame. It's about moving past the textbook and learning to speak the road's unwritten language, turning all those rules into pure reflex. So let's dive in.
So what's the secret sauce? What really separates a good driver from a truly great one? It's not about being the fastest or the most confident. The real secret is anticipation. A great driver is always playing chess, not checkers. They see the road as a living thing, full of patterns and clues. They're constantly scanning, looking for that little thing, a kid's ball bouncing toward the street, a car that's weaving just a little bit, and they see it before it ever becomes an emergency.
All right, first up, sharing the road with the real giants out there, the big trucks. And let's be honest, it can be a little intimidating, right? These rigs just don't follow the same rules of physics as your car, so knowing how to handle them is absolutely key for staying safe.
So what's the number one thing you need to know? It's this. Trucks have absolutely massive blind spots. And I'm not kidding. We're not talking about that little spot over your shoulder. We're talking about huge zones where your entire car can just vanish from the driver's view.
Yeah, there's actually a name for these spots. They're called no-zones, and the name says it all. If you're driving in a no-zone, and that's directly behind, right in front, or along either side of the truck, you are literally invisible. Poof, gone. As far as that truck driver is concerned, you're not even there. So, what's the big secret to handling this? It's actually super simple, but so many of us forget it. Just give them space. Seriously, that's it. Give them way more room than you think you need. That space is your lifeline. It keeps you visible and gives you the time you need to react.
Okay, so what does giving space actually mean on the road? Well, here's a golden rule for you. If you can't see the truck driver in their side mirror, guess what? They can't see you either. Simple as that. You also got to remember those wide turns. Big trucks need a ton of room to swing around a corner. So the name of the game here is patience. Don't ever try to squeeze by. Just hang back, let them do their thing, and then you can go.
All right, next up, we're going to talk about decoding special zones. See, the road isn't the same everywhere. You've got these areas with their own unique and sometimes non-negotiable rules. And knowing these isn't just about dodging a fine. It's about understanding when the normal rules of the road get put on pause for everyone's safety.
Let's look at a couple of perfect examples. First, construction sites. You see a person with a flag or a sign, they are the boss, period. Their instructions beat a traffic light, a stop sign, everything. You do what they say. Then there are those tank trucks, the ones with the hazardous materials signs. They have to stop at every single railroad crossing, no exceptions. Even if it looks clear for miles, it's the law, so just anticipate it and don't lean on your horn.
Okay, here's a tricky one that gets a lot of people. Bike lanes. We all know you're not supposed to just cruise in them, but what if you need to make a right turn? Can you enter it then? Well, the answer is yes. But, and this is a big but, there's a very specific set of rules you have to follow.
It's a really simple three-step dance. Step 1, signal your turn. Let everybody know what you're planning to do. Step 2, you can move into the bike lane, but not until you're pretty close to the turn.
no more than 200 feet before the street. And step 3, this is the most important one. Check, double check, and triple check for cyclists. They have the right of way. You have to be absolutely sure it's clear before you make that turn.
Okay, let's wrap this up by talking about the art of communication. Because that's what great driving really is, right? It's this constant, silent conversation you're having with every other driver out there. You're not using your voice, you're using your lights, your signals, even where you place your car on the road.
All right, let's talk about a signal that seems to confuse a lot of people. The flashing yellow light. You pull up to an intersection, you see that blinking yellow. What does it actually mean? It's not red, so you don't have to stop. But it's not a solid green, so you can't just floor it. So what's the deal?
The answer is actually pretty straightforward. It's a warning. The light is basically telling you, hey, pay attention. You can go, but you have to proceed with caution. The key thing to remember is that you do not have the right of way. You need to be ready to yield to anyone coming from the other direction.
And speaking of lights, let's talk headlights. It's so important to remember they're not just for you to see, they're for other people to see you. The rule is, if you can't see about 1,000 feet in front of you, they need to be on. And of course, on mountain roads or in tunnels, they're a must. But here's the easiest rule to remember, and it's the law in many places. Wipers on, headlights on. It's that simple.
Okay, I want you to burn one number into your brain. Ready? 500 feet. That's it, 500 feet. That is the distance when you absolutely must dim your high beams for an oncoming car. Any closer, and you're basically blasting their eyes with a spotlight, which is incredibly dangerous for everyone.
So what about when you need to send out a warning? You've got 2 main tools in your toolbox. Think of tapping your brakes 3 or 4 times as a direct message to the person right behind you. It says, hey, pay attention, something's up, I'm slowing down. But your emergency flashers, that's like a broadcast to everyone in every direction. That's for the big problems. A crash up ahead, your car's disabled, a major hazard. It's the all-hands-on-deck signal.
And really, when you boil it all down, everything we've talked about, giving trucks room, listening to a flagger, using your signals, it all comes back to one core idea: defensive driving. It's about being proactive, not reactive. It's about seeing the problem before it becomes a problem.
So every flashing light, every time a truck swings wide, every little signal from another car, it's all information. The road is constantly talking, constantly sending out signals. So the real question is, are you really listening?